Hi, I'm Candice Malcolm, and this is the Candice Malcolm Show news update. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026, and we have a great episode for you today. Today's episode is brought to you by Unsmoke, but more on them a little later.
The United States and Israel have acted without engaging the United Nations or consulting allies, including Canada. We implore all parties, including the United States and Israel, to respect the rules of international engagement.
So, yes, that is our Prime Minister Mark Carney taking a totally different tune than what he has been saying over the last few days. So let me just take you back to Saturday. So Saturday was the day that the news broke of Operation Epic Fury. We heard that a joint U.S.-Israeli strike took out the top leadership, top brass of the evil Islamic Republic in Iran. And to my surprise, the Prime Minister actually came out in support of it. I know that in Canada right now, everything that the political class does has to be anti-American, orange mad bad, Trump is the worst person on planet Earth, and that is like the theme of all of our politics. And so it was a little surprising to see Mark Carney actually come out in favor and seemingly supportive of what had been done. So here was Prime Minister Mark Carney speaking at the Canada-India Forum in Mumbai on Saturday, February 28th, and he said, in his own voice, in his own words, that he supported the U.S.-Israel action against Iran. Let's play that clip.
Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security.
And he didn't just say it, as I mentioned on my show on Monday, he also put it out in a statement. Let me just read the important paragraph, right? He talks about how the Canadian government is closely following the Iran-related hostilities throughout the Middle East, urges all Canadians in Iran to shelter in place. He goes on to say Canada's position remains clear. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East. It has one of the worst human rights records and must never be allowed to obtain or develop nuclear weapons. Canada's international partners have consistently called upon the Iranian regime to end its nuclear program, including at the recent G7 summit, as well as the United Nations in September. He goes on saying, despite diplomatic efforts, Iran has neither fully dismantled its nuclear program, halted all enrichment activities, nor ended its support for regional terror proxy groups. Canada stands with the Iranian people in their long and courageous struggle against Iran's oppressive regime. I could have written this myself. This is spot on. He goes on to say that Canada has listed Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity, sanctioned 256 Iranian entities, 222 individuals in response to the regime's repression and its violence against both its own people and persistently beyond its border. Canada reaffirms Israel's right to defend itself and ensure its security of its people. Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. So there it is. It's all there in black and white. Now, as my colleague Mark Petrone pointed out on his show yesterday, that was what Mark Carney was saying. But interestingly, we heard an evolving sort of stance and position from his own cabinet. So here is his Foreign Affairs Minister on the same day, on Saturday, February 28th. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand was also speaking to reporters in Mumbai, and she said that she would have preferred a diplomatic solution. So kind of like casting a little bit of doubt here, saying that, actually, no, we don't really support it. We would have preferred a diplomatic solution. I think we all would have preferred a diplomatic solution. The problem is that that hasn't worked with Iran. It hasn't worked for decades because they lie and they continue to develop their program. If a diplomatic solution would have worked, it would have worked already. Anyways, here is Anita Anand, Foreign Affairs Minister for Canada, saying that she would prefer a diplomatic solution.
We prefer a diplomatic solution. This is why I have spent the last 2 days speaking with my counterparts across the Middle East and in the Gulf states, from Jordan to Qatar, to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to UAE, and all of my G7 counterparts, stressing that Canada believes in a diplomatic and peaceful solution, and as soon as possible, we would like parties to get to the table.
And then another evolution comes. Now speaking in Sydney, Australia, Defence Minister David McGuinty in the Mark Carney government calls for a ceasefire. Says enough is enough. 2 days ago we supported this measure. Now we want a ceasefire. Let's play that clip.
And the Prime Minister and the government decided from the beginning of this that we would support this incursion. But we're also calling for a diplomatic end to it. We very much would prefer to see peace and a ceasefire. That's what my colleague, Minister Anand, is driving forward now with her colleagues around the world. And so we'll see where this takes us.
That was Tuesday, March 3rd, so 2 days after the attack and happening yesterday. And then what do we see? Mark Carney comes out and changes his tune and condemns the action, says it breaks international law, actually sounding a lot like the NDP. Remember, this is what Heather McPherson, NDP candidate for leadership, she came out saying, this is breaking international law, and saying that it was not a just act, right? And now Mark Carney is echoing the NDP's position and saying that it's a failure of international order and that Canada was not consulted. I'm going to play this clip again for you because it was just really so unbelievable. Look at how weak he looks. Look at how unsure of himself he looks. Look at how pathetic he looks. Really, really unbelievable stuff from our Prime Minister down in Sydney. Let's play that clip one more time.
We support efforts to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. Because Canada is taking the world as it is, not passively waiting for a world we wish to be. We do, however, take this position with regret because the current conflict is another example of the failure of the international order. Despite decades of UN Security Council resolutions, the tireless work of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the succession of sanctions and diplomatic frameworks, Iran's nuclear threat remains. And now, the United States and Israel have acted without engaging the United Nations or consulting allies, including Canada. So where to from here? With a rapidly spreading conflict and growing threats to civilian life. Canada reaffirms that international law binds all belligerents. We condemn the strikes carried out by Iran on civilians and civilian infrastructure across the Middle East. And we implore all parties, including the United States and Israel, to respect the rules of international engagement. Canada calls for a rapid de-escalation of hostilities and is prepared to assist in achieving this goal.
Okay, so I want you to just take a look at that weakness. He was getting absolutely shredded on social media from people all over Canada, all over the world. Like, what is this flip-flop, weakness, pathetic, whining and complaining that we weren't included in this? Not a good look from our Prime Minister. Juxtapose that with Conservative Leader Pierre Poilievre, who was actually looking quite confident and hitting his stride. So he was speaking in London, England, at the annual event held by the Centre for Policy Studies, the Margaret Thatcher lecture. And I will say, Pierre Poilievre is looking very strong and very sure of himself. So this is the first clip from Poilievre calling for a modern CANZUC, like a Canada, New Zealand, Australia, UK alliance and partnership to deepen trade, reduce policy, regulatory barriers, and expand mobility. So here is Poilievre calling for a new sort of free trade agreement between these Western countries.
Warm words about old alliances are not enough. When the treaties and agreements that allow us to trade freely face upheaval, we need to double down and deepen our ties with our oldest and most trusted friends. Instead of shrinking markets behind tariffs, we should expand opportunities among friends. That is why I believe the time has come for a partnership between Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia, and New Zealand. A modern CANZUC, a pact that opens our economies, removes barriers, recognizes credentials, expands skilled labor mobility, and deepens capital markets. Cooperation that helps us build stronger militaries and keep our countries safe from shared threats like China, Russia, and others. Our four countries have the free trade agreement and arrangement that is already in place through the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But we must go further, because tariffs are not the only or even the biggest barrier to our trade. More often, trade is slowed by regulations, standards, product approvals, licensing, and rules of procurement, etc. For example, Canadian beef is not able to make it into as many marketplaces of this country as it should, because of regulatory obstacles. We must remove these types of obstacles.
Next, Poilievre also talks about Canada's rich history connected to our British political roots, as well as our ethnic roots from the original settlers of Canada that built this country, connecting us back to English liberty, the traditions of freedom that date back to the Magna Carta. Let's play that clip.
As the centuries progressed, what started as rights and freedoms for the few gradually grew and grew to the many, and now today for all. I can stand here and connect this ancient charter to our own laws, more than 800 years later, in a land unknown to the men who signed it. That shows the enduring power of the ideas and principles, but only if we protect them. These principles are our inheritance as Canadians. They are the core of our conservative philosophy, conserving ancient liberties. As Burke said, there is a contract between the dead, the living, and the yet to be born. That contract requires we pass what we inherited from our forebears on to our children. Freedom is hundreds of years old, but only one generation deep. We must do our job in our living time to pay it forward to those who will come after us. Because what started here by the muddy banks of the Thames is now our duty to continue an ocean away in Canada.
And then this is the clip that Pierre Poilievre posted on his own social media. Strong, free, unbreakable. That's exactly how he looked. Let's play that clip.
From Stephen Harper and John A. Macdonald in Canada, from Thatcher and Churchill here. Conservatives have always known that the greatness of the nation lies in its working people. We will champion them by again restoring meritocratic, bottom-up competitive economy, an economy where businesses compete through paying more wages to attract workers and lowering prices to attract customers, where business is disciplined by competition, not propped up by handouts, carve-outs, and bailouts. Economies that are stronger at home so that they can have unbreakable leverage abroad.
So interesting time in Canadian politics. You can see the shifts starting to happen, and really just unbelievable to see our government and the Prime Minister, the Liberal government, just flip-flopping and changing their position on a dime. Maybe they saw public opinion polling and realized that they actually shouldn't support the war. I'm not exactly sure, but really, really unbelievable. It's time to modernize Canada's rules on nicotine. Alternatives to cigarettes, like heated tobacco, vaping products, and oral smokeless products, don't burn tobacco or produce smoke. Now, they aren't risk-free, but the growing body of scientific evidence shows that they have the potential to be substantially less harmful than smoking cigarettes. Now, despite this, Canadians are banned from accessing this critical information and sometimes even banned from the products. Nicotine pouches remain banned in convenience stores across the country, and current laws ban communication about the risk of these products compared to cigarettes. It's absolutely ridiculous. The evidence is here. The tools exist. Canadians deserve to have the freedom to know about them, to learn about them, to even just understand them. It's a free country. We should be able to have this information. So learn more about this campaign and our friends over at Unsmoke by visiting their website, unsmoke.ca. And thank you so much to Unsmoke for sponsoring this episode. Okay, I want to give an update on the terrorist attacks that we have been seeing in Toronto. There's been other terrorist attacks in the wake of this Operation Epic Fury in Iran, an unbelievable, horrific attack in Austin, Texas at a nightclub with a person who is apparently a supporter of the Ayatollah and picked up arms against innocent people in response to what happened, taking out the leadership of the Islamic Republic. And then there's also some attacks in Toronto, no casualties, thankfully, but obviously shooting up a synagogue in Toronto is totally, totally unacceptable. So the police commented on this yesterday. Here is Toronto Police Chief Rob Johnson updating the media on the shooting that happened at the Temple Iman Ilu in North York last night. Let's play that clip.
A shooting targeting a place of worship is totally unacceptable. It is alarming. It is something we treat with the highest priority. I know that incidents like this create fear and anger within the Jewish community. We recognize that this does not occur in isolation. And at the outset of the military actions in Iran on Saturday, we further increased our visibility and patrols, knowing this geopolitical event would have local impacts. Our intelligence teams are continuously monitoring global events and assessing any impact they may have locally.
And our public safety minister, Gary Anisangari, also posted about this. He said, "I am deeply concerned by reports of gunfire damaging a synagogue in North York last night. Violence has no place in our communities. We must stand together against anti-Semitism and hate. My thoughts are with the Jewish community in Canada as police continue to investigate." Our friend Ezra Levant commented on this tweet and said, "Hey guys, great news. The public safety minister has his thoughts to the Jews whose synagogue was shot up last night." This public safety minister, who was the lawyer for a terrorist group, must recuse himself from any terror files. A very good point, Ezra. And I want to provide a little bit of an update and some more information that we're going to break on the show today about this Islamic Centre that Juno News was reporting had a celebration of life for the dead Ayatollah Khamenei. And they had it on their website, right? It's right there in black and white. Melanie Bennett broke the story on Juno News. I'm going to read a little bit from her news story. GTA Islamic Centre advertises memorial for dead terrorist mastermind Khamenei. Prominent Islamic Centre in Brampton, Ontario advertised memorial service to celebrate the life and death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, referring to the Islamic theocratic dictator. Prominent Islamic Centre in Brampton, Ontario advertised memorial service to celebrate the life and death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, referring to the Islamic theocratic dictator and supporter of international terrorism as a martyr. So she basically goes on to describe how this Islamic Centre posted the event and what it said on their website in Arabic, basically saying that it was like a celebration of life and calling him a martyr and basically just praising him. In their post, Melanie Bennett has the receipt. She took a screenshot of it, and she also posted this on social media. Dear Patrick Brown, why is the Islamic Shia Jamaat of Toronto hosting a celebration of life for designated terror leader Khamenei? And then she posts the screenshot plus the public safety reference that this is a terrorist entity. And so basically, she goes on to do the digging and the research and shows that according to federal grant database, this mosque, this Islamic Centre, has actually received $373,000 in funding from public safety and employment and social development. Revenue Canada filings show that the organization reports millions in charitable donation revenues and has transferred funds to other notable charities like the National Council of Canadian Muslims and Islamic Relief Canada. She shares Andy Lee's ex-post showing some of these grants that they receive, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. This one here is for $50,000. And then she has a couple of other ones. Now, interestingly, when this tweet of Melanie Bennett's and this news story came out, they kind of went viral. And all of a sudden, the link to that event was gone, right? They wiped it. They took it off their website. They had also posted a live stream of the actual event itself, and they pulled that down. Melanie Bennett watched it. She has screenshots of it, but they've deleted it. They've wiped it off. And so they're basically pretending that this didn't happen and that it's not true. I want to read you an email that they sent to Melanie Bennett, basically threatening her, accusing her of lying, and saying that they're going to take appropriate action. That measures are being taken. Measures are being taken against Juno News for the crime of reporting the truth. So this is what they did in response. Melanie reached out to them, as the journalist does, say, hey, can you comment on this event that you're hosting for the Ayatollah here in Toronto? They say, hi, Melanie, thank you for your email. Please find our formal written response below. And that's a statement from the ISIJ of Toronto, March 2nd. It has come to our attention that a post in relation to a vigil for Ayatollah Khamenei is now circulating on social media. We have received a number of inquiries about this content. We want to be clear that this post was made without authorization or approval. This event, as described in the post, did not take place. Rather, we held and continue to hold regular programming during the blessed month of Ramadan, when our congregation comes together to break our fast and pray together as a community. Appropriate measures have been taken in regards to this unauthorized post. So it's unclear whether they're saying that Juno News sharing the screenshot and sharing this news story is unauthorized, and so measures are going to be taken against us? Is that what he means? Or is he saying that someone in his own organization posted it and was not authorized by like the higher up, and that person is having appropriate measures being taken against him? Really not clear by his email. It kind of reads a little bit like a threat to me, but it could just mean that they're taking measures against the employee who maybe acted rogue. I don't know if that's what they're saying. It says ISIJ is a faith-based organization dedicated to spiritual guidance, community support, charitable service. We remain committed to serving our diverse membership with compassion, inclusivity, and respect for all peoples affected by the current crises. Thanks, ISIJ. So I don't know. How do you read that one? I kind of read it like they're saying you have unauthorized posts. They're pretending that it didn't exist. And again, the fact that they took down the original post and they took down the live stream regime, which already happened. The event already happened, and they did have a vigil for the Ayatollah, but they've taken it down now. So possibly trying to cover your tracks. This is obviously a developing story, and we will continue to bring you the latest as it happens. All right, folks, this is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Candice Malcolm. This is Candice Malcolm Show News Update. Thank you, and God bless.